Okay. Ta-da! Hi, tubers and footers.
Hey, I'm here too.
Snagged him again for another evening. Fun. Well, we were setting up.
Lucky me.
We're setting up our Tubers and Chiefers channel, and we have to wait 24 hours before we can live stream. So, so tomorrow maybe. It'll be late tomorrow. Again, like it's late tonight.
Why?
Because in 24 hours.
Oh yeah, it's 24 hours.
It'll be late.
Started like 20 minutes ago.
Yeah. Yep. So, hopefully everybody's doing good tonight. Probably everybody's sleeping. It's only 10 o'clock here on the West Coast. In Oregonian. I've got I got a couple things. I've got new Bigfoot socks.
What?
Katie got me those.
Oh man.
I got little footies. Little footy mans. Footies.
Big.
Yeah. Big feet footy prints. And then the SketchBox.
That box is sketchy.
Ta-da! I love this. Gives you just enough little art supplies that you can see if you like it or not, and then you can order more if you're interested. They have some SketchBox only items. I can use my fingernail to cut this open. Hey, Amy, how's it going?
Amy, what's up? Here, use this thing right here. We're in.
It's 1 a.m. Well, we were gonna get our other channel going, Amy. Thanks for staying up. But yeah, there's a little time thing. Okay, so let's open this bad boy.
Oh man, when it's 1 a.m. here, I hope I'm asleep.
All right. He's always snoozing.
Not always snoozing, but at 1 a.m. I'm usually snoozing.
Hey, Pyro. We didn't get we started the other channel, but we can't go live on it for another 24 hours. So we're going to unbox this bad boy. Christina Skiles. Hi.
Hey, and Pyromedic.
You're in North Carolina, Amy, huh?
Unfortunately, there's not a Bigfoot in that box.
Nope. Ooh, but there's some cool stuff. Okay, so what do we got this month?
Weed. Is there weed in the box?
No.
Oh.
No. Okay, so they always give you 2 little cards. One about the artist. Oh, I guess I should put it right. And this is Andrew Pina. So hopefully, there you go. You can check out his Instagram there. Check out some of his artwork. And they give you, ta-da, the card with what's all in there.
Some tubes of lipstick, some eyeliner brushes.
Yeah.
Wait, no, it's art supplies.
And right here, they give you this little code so you can go in there and check out a video. And they give you some tips on how to use the latest in here. Ooh. So we got here, a SketchBox.
Can of chewing tobacco.
Right there. No, this is the cotton paper. It's textured cotton paper. What the? Hey, WTF, Mike. My nemesis. What's happening? So this one is for a variety of mediums. Absorbent and durable. What is that? Gouache?
The real question is, do they double as
That's
rolling
awesome.
papers?
No.
No, she says no.
So then, next, we get, a new brush. They always send really quality stuff. And this one is a SketchBox signature brush. Made just for SketchBox.
Apparently you need to be some sort of a ninja to get into this.
Yeah.
All right, I'm taking it to the garage.
Oh,
I've got
Amy.
power tools.
You should check out this box. If you love doing artwork, it's really fun because they give you new supplies. Look at that tip. Each month, stuff that I normally wouldn't buy, but it's fun to try it out. So that's the SketchBox brand right there. So let me turn that over. It says, get SketchBox. Let's see if it'll show it there. Ta-da!
I don't know if I'm doing something wrong or
Look at
what.
that tip.
This paper is just, I think it's a hockey puck, maybe.
There you go.
Well, I got the
Ta-da!
lid open, but I can't get the. Is it just one giant thick piece of paper? Or is it supposed to open up into multiple pieces of
I would
paper?
imagine there's multiple on there.
Oh, hey, whoa, oh.
Wait, what are you doing?
That's what I'm saying. You gotta be a ninja to get into this thing. Okay. Well, I don't know. Whatever.
Okay.
Take a chisel to it in the garage and split the sheets open one at a
I don't
time.
think it's supposed to be that difficult.
I don't think it should
Look
be
at all
that
these little
difficult.
goodies. Okay, so next, look at, they always send a sticker too. How cute. And then we have this, which is a peony color, I guess. Wow. And so there's a bunch of these different little colors here. Which one's this? Hummingbird blue. Oh, if I can go in the right direction. And then, this one's a lighter blue, it looks like. I don't even know. But it is a lighter blue. Doesn't know where to focus on. And then another little color here. This is more of a light ochre. Let me see. I'll show it up better. There you go. So that's what it is. And I sent this awesome blue colored those Copic pens. It's pretty awesome. And toosh Liquitex titanium white. Box just tried to fall. There you go. That's what came. Chop cha. So there you go, tubers and footers. That's an awesome little box. I love working with acrylics. Now, what does it say here? Open. There you go. Maybe.
Amy says, I am up tonight, though I am battling pain and some lung issues, breathing stuff I had.
Oh, it's gotten worse. You had COVID?
Worse than COVID. Oh, lame.
Sorry, Amy. Okay, there you go. Tubers and footers.
All right.
Set that up.
You better do some art tomorrow, lady.
Yeah. Add to my funness. What did Pyro say here? My nephew is performing. What? Bob Dylan's song at the opening of Bob's new music center in Tulsa, Oklahoma tomorrow. What?
Wow.
Awesome. Congrats.
That's cool.
That's really awesome.
Bet you he's not sleeping very good tonight. He's
Right.
so excited.
No doubt.
I'd be like, man, I can't go play. I'm gonna play so good tomorrow. And then I'll be exhausted and play like crap.
Hey, Sharon.
Hey,
Yeah, it's
Sharon.
a nice little set. It's not expensive. It's not too expensive, but it helps you, if you don't know what you want to get into and want to try different kind of artwork. It's pretty fun.
Does that thing come like once a month?
Yeah.
How much does it cost a month?
It's like 20,
Hmm.
27.
And if you scan that little thing, it'll take you to a video that shows you how to paint with that stuff you got in there.
Yep,
Oh,
from
cool.
the artist. So, and then each month they have different artists that they put on the boxes too. And when you use, like if I drew something with all of the stuff in here and sent it into SketchBox, I could be entered to appear on one of the boxes. It's pretty cool. That's pretty awesome. Hey, Scotty. Hey, Jimbo.
Hey,
How's it going?
Jimbo, hey, Scotty.
I guess we could do a.
It's an invite
Oh,
on the screen. What does that mean? Sorry, guys. I'm new to this.
well, I would put the link in there,
Okay.
and then other people can join us.
Oh.
They can come on the screen and chat with us.
All right.
Oh, Amy did some diamond art today. That stuff looks beautiful. It's like this new technique that they have where you put like little crystals in a picture.
Bedazzling.
It's, yeah, like a bedazzling almost.
Oh, I'm bedazzled.
Let's see. We can share the link, I guess, and see who wants to come join us. How you doing tonight, Jimbo? Let's see if I can do this. Can you guys hear us good? Okay. All right. 10 minutes to breathe. Let's see here. Oh, good. You can hear us loud and clear.
All right. That means this microphone right here is working well.
My fingers aren't, though. Ta-da! I don't have my mouse because I've got everything else plugged in. Hey, Jen. How's it going?
Jen.
Oh, good. You got your inhaler, Amy? Good. Hopefully you're feeling better. There you go.
Oh, I've had to use those once or twice in my life.
Oh, I remember when we had to do that with Joe when he was a baby. That scared the crap out of me.
I got into some spruce trees down on that island in Prince William Sound that one time. Remember that?
Yeah.
Oh man,
That was scary.
it was early in the spring, and I don't know if it was the trees or something on the ground, but I got some pollen. Oh, and I didn't have an inhaler. That's right. I didn't have an inhaler, but I did have some Zyrtec or something, which I took like way too much of to try and get any kind of antihistamine
Going.
help. And I just laid down and just had to like slow my breathing. And
Ooh, looks like she is.
she okay?
She almost had that little pukey look face.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
I might have to race out here, guys.
All right, Scotty, on your next shift. Yeah, we're on late tonight. We've been farting around with the other channel, and I finally got everything fully set up, and now we have to wait. It says device is not connected, Jimbo. I don't know why it says that. They will need to connect their mic or cam before you can add them. It won't let me add you. I don't know if there's a setting you need to set, Jimbo, but it won't let me connect you.
So,
But yeah, so when someone comes on, they'll show up
okay.
down in the bottom, and you can click on and add them,
All right.
and then they'll come up. And they don't have to put their camera on, you know.
Okay.
They don't want to show their.
So, Scotty, are you like a Secret Service agent or something? What are you doing working at this time of night? Hey, I'm just out protecting important people, you know.
That's awesome. Oh, you guys want to see something really cool? Let me show you this. I got this. Wow, we were in Vegas. This is one of my
I wasn't in
splurges.
Vegas. She was in Vegas.
It was a girl's trip.
I won't go to Vegas. I got no interest in that place.
Well, it's not for everybody, and
It's not for me.
It's definitely not something like, I don't know, I guess the best vacation is out in the woods, right? Obviously. But if you want to go party and dress up and go see stuff, that's the place to go.
Yeah, getting dressed up in the woods is sort of pointless.
It's kind of hard to do. Ta-da! Look at this bad boy I got. I don't know if you've heard of this company. It's called Creed. Hey, Patrick.
Patrick.
They are a custom perfumery. So it has all these amazing.
That one smells like Bigfoot right there. Well, the brown top.
All these, oh, so yum. I don't know if you could see that. It was great. This was my big splurge. But yeah, Creed originally, the House of Creed, they only made handcrafting fragrances for royal houses since 1760. And they only started selling it to the public in 1970, like 1972. So prior to 1972, you had to be a royal in order to get any of their fragrances. So it's pretty awesome. There's some yummy ones in here for sure. That was fun. Robbie and I both got one. So body odor, musk and urine. Thanks, Patrick.
All the good stuff in there.
Well, I'm not sure, Jimbo. Try it again. See if you test your mic, and there's like a little test thing that you can test it out.
Supposedly one of the most expensive fragrances is made with that ambergris, which is like this styrofoam like stuff that comes out of whales when they throw up. It's like some sort of whale vomit.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like styrofoam or something. Apparently it washes up on beaches. And like if you find a chunk like this big, it's worth like thousands of dollars. Every once in a while you read in the newspaper or something about it, or somebody found a big chunk of it. I guess these perfume makers all go crazy, and everybody wants to buy whale vomit. So
that's kind of grody. Don't know what it is in there that makes fragrance so awesome, but
I don't remember, honestly. I read about it a long time ago, and I don't remember all of what the deal was with it. But,
Pyro's asking about those lights we saw in Vegas. So we were at Robbie's cousin's house, and we were hanging out on the deck at night, and we looked out over there, and there was like this, I don't know, a few lights just over the Vegas Strip.
And they showed me that video.
Yeah, and they were just hanging there, but they were airplanes waiting to land, apparently. So there weren't UFOs, but they just hung there for so long.
It would have been so much cooler if they were UFOs.
I know. Yeah, but everybody kept saying they were planes, but they never moved. They all just stayed right in those.
I wonder if they were just like coming at you like really, really slow. They just kind of were just on their slow approach or something. So it looked like they weren't moving, maybe.
Yeah, and there's just a bunch of them too. So yeah, it's pretty awesome though. It's a good video. That was a good trip though. But yeah, at first we had Robbie totally convinced they were UFOs. So
she's gullible.
She's so fun. I had so much fun to play with.
Oh man, Jackie got her so good a few years ago for April Fools. Oh, it was just too much. Somebody had come out with this video, and it was fake, of this miniature giraffe that was like 10 inches tall or something, or 18 inches tall. And it was really good. I don't know if they took a real giraffe and shrunk it down, or if they CG. It must have been CGI. It was really good, though. It was really good CGI. It was like this little miniature giraffe, like jumping around and frolicking in some hay and stuff. And so Jackie, like, copies this video, sends it to her friend Robbie, and
like a month ahead of April Fools.
Oh yeah, she set this
like
thing
3
up
months,
for a
actually.
long time. It was like, oh, look at these, aren't these the cutest? And they were just carrying on and on and on. And finally, Jackie's like, on April Fools, she's like, I'm getting one. I got it ordered. It's going to be here next week or something.
It's coming that night. I called in. I said, guess what comes in tonight?
Oh man, Jackie had her going so good. And then finally, Robbie's boyfriend calls me up and he's like, dude, you got to make this stop, man. I'm like, what? What are you even talking about? He's like, the miniature giraffes. Like, Robbie like fully believes it. I'm like, are you serious? Like, what? Yeah, he's like, dude, you got to make this stop. You've got to tell your woman to make this stop. And I'm like, it's pretty funny, man. You just kind of let it keep going. I don't know. You got a little buttered out of it. But.
It's a lot of fun. Probably will never live that one down. So every year on April Fools, I'll send her, like, after I do my joke, because I still manage to get her every year, but I send her, like, a picture of a giraffe with sunglasses on.
Oh, the beaver caster. Oh man, that's a weird one too. The beaver caster.
Oh, Patrick's food flavoring.
Yeah, I don't know what it tastes like. Maybe maple syrup or something.
That just doesn't even sound good. Doesn't even sound good.
Where did you see a UFO? What part of the country in '92?
Oh, you did see a UFO in what? Where? You should come on and tell us about it, Patrick.
That was right around, it was either 91 or 92 when I saw that UFO. You remember the story when I was driving from Mammoth Mountain?
No, you should tell us.
I told you before on this channel, I'm pretty sure, didn't I?
I don't know. I don't
Well,
remember.
anyways, yeah. So myself, my friend Bodie, my friend Marco, and my sister Rebecca, we were driving from Mammoth down to Los Angeles to pick up another friend of ours. We were living up there and being ski bums. And we were driving and we were down. So we were headed south. And it was kind of high desert, just sort of outside of Bishop by, I don't know, probably 45 minutes or something. And it was really dark. And there was these three lights, like kind of a triangle. And they were up high, way up above the mountains. It was hard to judge how far away it was, but it was definitely far away. And they were racing across the sky and just would stop and then go a different direction ridiculously fast. Like no man-made thing I've ever seen. It was just like, from Mach 3 to 0 to going another direction in, a split second. Like there wasn't a point in time where it slowed down and then started accelerating again. It was like almost not instantaneous, but almost instantaneous. It was pretty amazing. And we all saw it. That was like, it wasn't just a one-off, like, whoa, did you guys see that? Like we pulled over, rolled the windows down, and all of us sat there and we're like, what is that?
Whoa.
And we were too poor to even be on drugs, so it wasn't drugs. We couldn't afford drugs, so it wasn't the drugs.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, it was wild.
Wow. Missy and I saw some lights out on the Iron Dog Trail. We were out past Puntilla, or Poorman. Way out in the middle of nowhere, Alaska. Like there's nothing out there. And we pulled over to take a quick pee break and get some snacks in us and, get going again and kind of get our bearings about us. It's late. Super dark out. There's nothing. Like there's no lights anywhere for, like you can't see nothing. There's no city glow, nothing. You are way far remote. And so I was sitting there and I was looking up at the sky and I was watching these lights just and it kept doing this over and over, and I'm watching it thinking like my eye was going wonky on me or something. And as I was really intently watching it, I wasn't saying anything. And then Missy said to me, "Yep, I see it too." I was like, "Oh, okay." Not going bonkers. And we sat there and watched that thing, and then it just, it's gone. That was crazy. But that's like kind of technically where they say that pyramid is in Alaska and stuff, right? In that area. Yeah.
Paramedic says that's the mountain where the pilots see the UFOs.
Really?
So it would have been like where we saw this would have been near probably south of Mount Whitney, which is the highest peak in California. Well, actually,
I think Patrick's going to join us.
Mount Whitney's pretty big. Mount Whitney might even be the highest peak in the lower 48. Can't remember for sure.
Huh.
Full use of anti-gravity. Yeah. The direction changes were amazing. And we watched it for, I don't know, probably a good close to a minute before it just was gone out of sight.
Sharon said, I saw a UFO in Shropshire in the UK. In 1994, two semicircle-shaped objects that were flying together. Oh, wow. Then separated and then flew vertically very fast. Whoa.
Wow.
That's, when you see crazy stuff, it just kind of sticks in there. Hey, Texas Jack, how's it going? He's building a...
Texas Jack?
Building a rig to drive up to Alaska with.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Right on.
Oh, an ex-girlfriend saw a UFO one night.
2 days later, it was all over the local news. The pictures looked exactly what she had described.
Oh, geez.
So what are these things? Like,
right?
I mean, obviously they're unidentified flying objects, but what the heck? Like, now...
Aliens? Secret government activity?
I don't think our government's got anything that good, though. I don't know. So one night, we were not trying to prank anybody. When I was in high school, some friends of mine and myself, we flew stunt kites with the 2 strings. And we lived in a place that was always windy. So flying kites was kind of a thing to do there. And so we got these really cool stunt kites that we used to fly. And one night we were bored and we thought, let's go fly our kites. It's like, well, it's dark out.
Go fly kites.
So we got some of those Calmulite light sticks, the one that you snap. and shake up, and it's the chemical reaction.
Oh, right.
And they come in a couple of different colors. I think we had some red ones and green ones. So we taped those onto our stunt kites, and we went out by the community college because there was a big field out there, and we were away from the city lights. The community college was on the edge of town, and we're flying our stunt kites. And it was really cool. And so, I don't know, I parked mine, and we could see there was people like in the parking lot, like starting to be this big crowd of people over there. And so I put they couldn't see us because where we were at was totally dark, but they were like under some street lights. And when I walked over there and I was like, what's going on? Because I thought something was happening. They're like, there's a UFO over there. And so I just played along, of course. I was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. Yeah, it's a UFO. Yeah, we had a good time with that night. But
That's funny.
there's probably some people that to this day are like, man, was that community college taking night classes one time? And I wasn't the only one. There was like 30 of us standing there watching this UFO rip all over the sky.
Oh my gosh. That's nuts. Jen saw something size of a smallish plane, batwing looking, dark with 11 light purple lights on the bottom. No sound, flew over the apartment complex slow and then took off. Maybe it was him with that kite.
No, because they were just using those Calmulite light sticks. And they were, they're like 6 or 8 inches long. And I think we had like just green and red. I think they only came in 2 or 3 colors.
Chartreuse.
Yeah.
Funny one. Scotty, I saw a UFO over my house years ago. It stopped, changed directions, and buggered off.
So what the heck are these things? Like,
I know, it's crazy. There's too many people. It's like Bigfoot. Too many people are seeing this stuff.
Yeah. It's not, I don't know. I don't know. I just don't know what to say on this stuff. Sometimes I really start to think like the only explanation for this kind of thing is like where there's multi-dimensions, and every once in a while, like dimensional waves crisscross paths, and we see things that aren't in our dimension. And sometimes I really wonder if that's what, all of this stuff is. If it's just, this is just a wacky theory. I don't know, you guys, but
makes sense.
There is, in other dimensions, they have stuff that just, it doesn't necessarily work in our dimension, or maybe, maybe that's what Bigfoot is too, and that's why we have such a lack of solid, evidence and bodies, is that they don't stay here. Maybe they just dip through our dimension for a few minutes at a time occasionally or something, I don't know.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. I was listening to this long audiobook. I didn't finish it because it was like well over 8 hours. But they were talking about shapeshifters, interdimensional beings, and all of this stuff that is, in that realm of seemingly untouchable, by science. But now that you look at what CERN is doing, they're messing with that. Like that's in, their manifesto. What they got going on is working through the dimensions. So,
yeah,
it's pretty interesting. Yeah. Right? A tear in the dimension, Fred. Yep.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. Because it defies what's our normal and what's accepted by science in our realm, or whatever you want to call this, our dimension, Yeah. It's like it defies physics. And there's laws of physics that, you cannot take an object from, Mach 10 to 0 and then go Mach 10 in the other direction in our dimension. It just doesn't work. There's, the laws of physics don't It doesn't add up.
Tear your body apart.
Yeah. It would tear anything apart that we know of.
Pyro, I saw one the size of the Astrodome covered in lights. I may see if hypnotic regression would help me figure that,
Huh.
I've thought about doing that with a few of my Bigfoot stuff, like that night out there on the Deshka. It's like that kind of freaks me out. Like just time evaporated and I didn't move. Like everything was right where I remembered it was. Even the dog radar at the bottom of my sleeping bag. He's a big pig. The dog was a dork, but yeah, it's crazy. Alaska has a lot of UFO type sightings, lots of crazy lights in the sky that, don't meet any of our known capabilities. Right, Sharon? And hers was before cell phones.
Yeah, mine too. Early 90s, like I said, it was either 91 or 92 when I saw that.
Wow. Kind of changes.
That was my only, yeah.
It changes your world, though, when you see stuff like that. Bigfoot, UFOs, things that aren't supposed to exist, and then they do. It makes you question your own mentality, like all sorts of stuff, right?
Yeah, and that's why, like, I don't know. I'm convinced that they're interdimensional or spiritual, which may be one and the same, quite possibly. I don't know, because there's too many people that have Bigfoot stories, and
right.
Too many people that have UFO stories, and they just doesn't fit in our dimension. It just, if Bigfoot lived in our dimension, we would have a body by now. We would have them smashed on the front of semi trucks, occasionally. We would have something more than what we've got of just, fleeting little glimpse through the trees or,
Yep,
Yeah.
Exactly, Texas Jack. Exactly. Makes you question everything. Everything. I mean, I rag on flat earthers a lot, but, there's a lot out there that, we've been told, and it makes you really, wonder.
Yeah. And if it is other dimensional, then more than likely there isn't some big conspiracy to cover it up. Everybody's in the same boat going, what the heck is going on? There's no big government conspiracy to hide this stuff. They're probably in the dark as much as we are.
That would make more sense.
Although you would figure, and maybe that's what CERN and all of this, Area 51 is, that they're trying to figure this stuff out and, maybe try and keep that hush-hush. But, because, if you could dip into another dimension and nab some Bigfoot and give them machine guns and send them to fight the bad guys, I'm sure the military would be all about it.
Oh, my gosh.
That's what's really going on in Area 51.
Oh, I think there are stories of that, though.
I agree. We cannot be the only life forms in the universe. I totally agree with that. There is just way too much.
Yeah.
It's too big. It's way too big. And the chances.
Oh, there's Patrick.
Hey, there he is, live and in person. The world famous.
Yeah, I'm having problems with my laptop.
How you doing?
I'm surviving. Wait on shoulder surgery to be scheduled, and
Oh,
Ow, how's the eye?
It's still a little blurry. It's like I fell apart or something.
You get in a fight with a Bigfoot or something?
No, just a series of unfortunate events.
Ah, bummer.
My camera's blurry. 1990, 1991, 92. I was hunting out in the middle of nowhere, me and another guy. And it was just weird. Okay, I don't, for me, UFOs are just, what they're named is a kind of an oxymoron. It's an unidentified flying object. Okay, that's it. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It means you saw something fly and you couldn't identify it. But I couldn't identify this one, and this is, a long time ago. I'm not sure how old it was, 92. That's a long time ago. But we get up early. We drive about 2 hours north, almost to Arkansas, about 30 miles south of Arkansas line, out in the middle of nowhere, and we're sitting on the side of this highway. And
hold on.
We got there way earlier.
Yeah.
Am I breaking up?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, my phone sucks at this. I was trying to get my laptop up, but I was sitting on the side of a road, waiting, because we were there probably an hour and a half for sun up, and I'm like, I'm not sitting out there for an hour and a half, and so we decided to take a nap in the truck, me and this other guy, and he's in driver's seat, I'm passenger side, and through my eyelids, I start seeing this pulsating light.
Well, it had to be bright then.
Yeah. So I open my eyes, and the whole inside of the truck is just this pulsating glow, and it's directional, coming from left and behind me through the back glass. And so I spin around and I look, and there's a ball of orange fire, maybe a mile out from me, above the clouds, and it is pulsating this orange light. And it's not like it's a LED light or some kind of floodlight. I mean, it's like it's burning something, And so I elbow my buddy. I said, "Hey, what is that?" And he gets and he looks. He says, "Well, I don't know. I've never seen anything like that." And then we watch it. We watched it for a good long time. It moved real slow. I mean, no sound, but as it was burning off whatever's burning off, it literally lit all the tops of the clouds up, and all the tops of the clouds were reflecting the orange color all around the area, and it's out over the woods, and there's just this one blacktop running through a large tract of area there, and we're on the side of it, and it just slowly comes from the north, just slowly moving, because we're facing south. And so I said, "Well, I don't believe in little green men." He says, "I don't either." But we loaded our weapons, we got out of the truck, and we went and stood by the tailgate. And we watched this thing probably 20, 25 minutes.
Wow.
It's just this bright orange glow. I can't say it was alien, but I don't know of any type of engine that we have that flies that doesn't make any sound and glows that bright orange out there in the sky.
Yeah, anything that we make as humans that can do that is really noisy. If you can see a big ball of fire coming out the bottom of it, it's making a racket.
Yeah, it's so bright you can't see anything that's causing it. I couldn't see like there was a crack there or anything. I just saw the big ball. That's
wow.
That's how bright it was. I couldn't see past the brightness, and it lit the whole sky. The tops of the clouds looked like they're on fire.
Wow.
That's how bright it was.
Amazing.
So technically, I couldn't identify it, and I still can't. And technically, it is an unidentified flying object.
Yeah.
Now, whether it was a test vehicle for NASA or aerospace engineer, or if it's actually, something else, I couldn't tell you. I don't know.
Hmm.
But,
Wow.
Crazy.
yeah, that was north of Minden, Louisiana.
Hmm.
There's 2 lakes up there. I was hunting on the backside of a lake. Yeah, it was I think that's Kisatchie National Forest up there too.
Wow. Have you talked to your friend about it? That you were
Which
with?
My friend? Uh-oh. We left it right there. We let it die right there. We said we don't know what it was. And we let it go.
Isn't that funny how a lot of people do that? That have these experiences. They just, go through it and then move on.
Well,
Yeah.
we were after meat, and that damn thing didn't have any, so, and it was a weird experience that I'll never forget it. And
Yeah.
but yeah, I had a weird weekend. I was at a birthday party,
Oh, that's
and
right.
I got recognized. Someone recognized me, like, oh, and well, I think he recognized me. He come up talking to me about Bigfoot. And
Oh.
I'm like, he's like, you believe in Bigfoot, don't you? I'm like, well, yeah, I'm Patrick Vaughn. He's like, so he gets, he's like, holy crap, but, and then he tells me that there's someone that he knows. He's like, I don't think you're you, because there's someone I know that says that he's Patrick. Now, I've had stalkers, but I've never had an imposter. That's a whole other level of weird,
Yeah. You got your doppelganger out there.
So you've had some experiences. What's your take on Bigfoot? Flesh and blood, or potentially alien, interdimensional? What do you think?
90% explainable as flesh and blood. 10% I just don't plain know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because
some of the stories are they just don't make sense, with them phasing in and out and, stuff like that.
90% of everything I've experienced with them has been physical. I'm tracking them. I'm looking at them. I hear them whooping. I have them ripping stuff off trees and throwing them at me, throwing rocks at me. I had one try to take me out with a rock. They say, oh, they're all nice. That one tried to take me out with a rock. But 90% of it to me is physical. The only thing that I cannot really explain, and I have a theory on it, is I shined one at 6 feet with a spotlight, and its hair didn't show up in the light, just its eyes did. Okay, and I was tracking for an experiment, is what it was. And these ladies wanted to go tracking and maybe cast a track, and it had already gotten dark on us. And so I have my spotlight, and I'm tracking. I always track in a zigzag pattern, but you see, that's also how I catch a horse that don't want to be caught too. You don't walk directly to a horse. If you don't want to get caught, you go to the left for a ways, right for a ways, and eventually you're right up on him. So I guess it inadvertently happened that way, but I'm tracking in a zigzag pattern, sweeping, looking for tracks and tracking, because I had an idea. I heard something out there before dark. And when I get there, it's still there. I'm tracking my cubing's on the ground, and I'm watching these green pupils look where my light is looking. And I'm like, well, that's weird. And so I shine it to see what's standing there. I'm thinking, it's, because it's down like 3.5 foot off the ground. I'm thinking it's just a regular animal. I shine it, And you know what a normal animal does when you shine it with a light? You see all of it.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't reflect light, just its eyes. And I got a real good look at its eyes. It looked right at me. It was looking at the ground where my light was, looking right at me. And its eyes were about 9 inches apart. And then it started standing up. It got bigger than me, and I started backing up. And I backed up about a truck length. And it's standing between two trees. You see its eyes, but you can't. The rest of it's blended into the night. All right. It turns its back, turns its back. I sprint forward and get within just right there. I have my light right in the center of its back. And you could just make out the fur in the brightest spot of the LED spotlight. And you can move it and find the width of it. But all around it, it looked just like night.
It was like a black hole.
It's like it absorbed the light. It didn't refract the light. You couldn't see the light. And that freaked me out. The more I learned about it, the more it freaked me out, because you can walk right by one with a flashlight and not see it.
Oh, wow.
Huh. That's crazy.
Hi, Sharon.
You know, that reminds me of polar bear hair. I'm sure you're familiar with it. It's hollow. And it's a camouflage against, that seal, so seals can't see it.
Yeah.
And it acts like a fiber optic tube almost, and it makes you wonder if it's something similar, I like your chandelier.
Yeah. It's kind of, I need to turn my AC on. I'll be right back.
Okay.
It's warm in here too.
Yeah. Pretty interesting. Yeah, it's always interesting talking to Patrick because he's got so much experience out there tracking too. Hey, Sharon guy.
Hey.
Everybody's up late like us, little late hour. Well, it's almost 11. Almost.
What's that mean? 23 hours till Tubers and Chiefers goes live.
That's been fun setting that up.
Yeah, you guys are going to have to come visit us over on that channel.
Yeah. Made, 3 videos, I think. 3 shorts.
Hey, Irma's on. Hey.
Hey, Irma. She's up in Alaska.
Yeah. Anchorage, right?
Yep.
Yeah. We'll be back up there soon.
Yep.
I can't see chat on my phone.
Oh.
So, have you had any strange experiences out in the woods?
Nothing that I can't say was probably a bear. I've had things outside my tent in the middle of the night in the pitch black, but I know there was a lot of bear in the area, and I would just guess it was a bear. I sort of slept with 2 eyes open and my big pistol on my chest all night, and could hear things sniffing around the edges and shuffling around my tent. And but I would say more than likely a bear on that occasion. And the other weird experience I did have in the woods was nothing that I saw. I was fishing on the Kenai River. It was midsummer, probably mid to late July. The red salmon were running, and a friend of mine and I did we used to call them a kamikaze fishing trip or something like that, and or a suicide mission. And we'd get off work in the afternoon and drive for 3 hours down to the fishing spot, and we'd fish all night and then drive back in the morning and go to work the next day. And so it was about you know, I don't know, 2 in the morning or something, and it was almost dark, really dark, but not quite. And I was pretty tired by that time, and I figured I'm gonna, you know, get off the edge of the river and go up into the trees a little bit. It was that time of year. There's 24 hours a day. There's people fishing on the edge of that river. You know, sometimes elbow to elbow. Sometimes, you know, by that time of night, you know, there was still quite a few people there. You know, people were spread out maybe 20 feet apart or something. And so I just decided, I'm going to get away from the people and the noise and whatever's going on here and go up into the woods a little bit. And so I just, you know, went up the bank of the river and walked, 30 yards back into the woods, and found a nice soft mossy spot underneath this fallen tree, and set my alarm for a couple of hours and figured I'd just get a little shut eye. And I have no idea how long I had been asleep, but I did doze off, and something ran by me, and it shook the ground, and it did not sound like it had 4 legs. And the only thing that would run by you there that would shake the ground would be a bear, a big brown bear in the area, or a moose. And it sounded like a person running. It was a thump, 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 thump. And it blasted by me and woke me up. I didn't see it, but it was moving, and yeah, Texas Jack, that's what I'm talking about. But that was the other weird experience that still has a question mark for me, from out in the woods. And that one, like I said, it just, you know, it sounded like a bipedal running. It did not sound like a moose. Didn't sound like it had 4 hooves, you know, or a bear with 4 legs. It was just very, you know, the cadence was like a person running.
Where was that?
Down by the Russian River, where the Kenai and the Russian River come together.
Well, it's just kind of like what I did with the UFO. I brushed it off.
That's all you can do.
And after my first encounter that I was chased out for a mile out of the woods in broad daylight, I called it hallucination. And after my second encounter that I didn't want to have, I called it a phenomenon. There's a phenomenon, a very real phenomenon that will make people believe these things are real. And then it took a third encounter for me to admit to myself, you know, because there's different levels of acceptance.
Sure.
And I've been studying the psychology of why is it we cannot accept what we see. You know, it's kind of like I can take someone tracking, and I can show them a pig track, and they can identify that, and they accept that's there. And every other animal, it could be possum, coon, squirrel, deer, every other track in the woods, I can identify it, they accept it's there. But I come across 17 inches, you know, 5 inches wide at the heel, you know, 5-toe track, and a series of them where I'm tracking this, and, you know, a mile back or better in the bush, and this person says, it can't be that. Okay, it's kind of like a geologist I got in a debate with. I had a couple of debates with him, actually, but only one official. But he's a naysayer. He's a skeptic, and I respect that because I know exactly. But I asked him, I said, what makes a rock levitate off the ground and fly out of the woods at you when no one's around? Okay. He said, rocks don't fly. I said, I've seen rocks fly out of the woods and there ain't no one around. You know, 1, 2 in the morning. You know, nice size rocks. You know, one buzzed my head so fast. I was walking to my truck to get a drink on an expedition. And I stopped and I paused just for a second to try to decide if I wanted a Lipton tea or a Coke out of the other cooler, you know. And I paused for a second, and then I stepped forward, and a rock come by the back of my head and made my hair shift. It made the air change inside my ears and my pressure in my ears. That's how fast that rock. That's how fast that rock was moving. Okay, and I've been shot at. I would say it was almost as fast as a bullet. That's how fast a rock was moving. This big. I said, "Now, can you explain that to me, Mr. Geologist?" He goes, "No, but a Bigfoot didn't do it."
Randy Johnson hiding in the woods throwing rocks at you.
Well, think about the psychology and the denial that backs that up, and it's not a derogatory or fault in us. It's just a natural, thing we do to say there's no way.
Yeah.
Where did that programming come from? That's my question. I want to know where that programming come from.
Well, and Jackie and I were just having this discussion the other day about how hard it is as an adult to change your belief system that you were raised with, whether it was a religion or, just anything, whatever, however you were raised, that's fact to you, like it's very hard when you're raised and programmed to believe something, and and you get older and you start thinking about stuff from your childhood and you go, what? Wait a second. It's really hard to let those belief systems go and open your mind up and say, hey, what else is going on or whatever, So yeah, exactly what you're saying is, it's very hard to change I don't. These weren't in the textbook in school. If they were alive and a real thing, I would have learned about them in my classes in college, or when I went to the zoo, they'd have had one behind bars or whatever. They'd have one stuffed at the Smithsonian by now. And
so it kind of boils down to our own, not only our own limited or unlimited life experiences and perceptions and perceptual bias that we have from those, but also our own arrogance in thinking that we would know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because if you look back at the people that were here, Stone Age people, they knew about them. They drew them on cave walls 1,700 years ago. Okay. Every tribe in the Americas had their own name for it. They knew they existed. They had wars with them.
Right.
Okay. Now, white man comes on the prairie and hears all this and calls them pagan myths.
Yeah.
That was our first explanation is it's a pagan myth. Don't believe it. And it's been a pagan myth since for mainstream media. And so I've just been really trying to wrap my head around how we are the smartest dumb animal on the planet.
Oh, that's a tough nut to crack right there.
I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, if I showed you a popsicle stick, you'd think there was a popsicle on it at one point in time or another. If I show you a Sasquatch track and someone says, "Oh no, it can't be that," and they run away.
Yep.
It's like I'm ignorant and I'm guarding that, and it's not derogatory. It's just the frame of mind.
Yeah.
And people will turn toxic over things. Matter of fact, I got away from YouTube and deleted my Facebook account because I was wasting my time with toxicity.
Mm.
I wasn't getting anywhere. All I was being is attacked. And of course, I'm not from the Bigfoot community. I'm from the survival community. Okay, I still have contacts with them. My main group. It didn't put a dent in me anywhere to walk away from the Bigfoot group. Not one.
I'm sorry to understand what was your other group you're in?
Survival.
Oh, okay, yeah, awesome.
So I walked away from Bigfoot community I mean, I just opened that up 2019. It's not like it put no dent into me to walk away. Other than there's two people I keep in contact with. That's Jackie and Christy Sci-Fi. But yeah, just the toxicity of people. And it's like it's just, I don't know, I do not have a gentle explanation for that.
Yeah, and people turn on one another fast over the most ridiculous stuff.
You know, I think a lot of what you're describing is the naysayer side of it is it's like a comfort blanket. You know, you've got your little belief system and you're comfortable in your little world, and people, if you really start to know people, you start to realize that almost everyone has some beliefs about themselves and perceptions about themselves that, you know, they hold on to as sort of this, you know, their comfort zone or whatever, you know, of how they world, you know, what their worldview is, and, you know, the lenses that they look at life through and look at themselves through. And it's like, you know, it's this, you don't want to leave your comfort zone, you know, and if somebody tells you, well, that's a Bigfoot track. Well, wait a second. I don't want my beliefs questioned. That's outside my comfort zone. So you're a lying jerk for trying to, you know, change my belief system or whatever.
Yeah. Hey, I've had people tell me it was ground pareidolia. I would have 5 toes and everything in it. You know, it's a track. And he said it's ground pareidolia. You're just seeing what you want to see. I'm like, well, and I said, well, what natural phenomenon creates 5 toe, 17-inch heel to toe tracks sequentially, left foot and right foot shaped, for 2 miles across this bottom? What natural phenomenon can do that? Oh, I don't know. Well, if you don't have it, you know, you can't explain to me why you're saying that it's, you know, pareidolia. It really just sounded like the person just, you know, did not want it to be what it was.
Yeah, desperately holding on to their belief.
Yeah, and well, this guy was, you know, I've had believers. I've had people who are huge in the Bigfoot industry tell me, well, because I don't have your skill sets and do what you do, then you can't do that either. Okay, you cannot be doing what you say you're doing and tracking these things because I can't do it. And so I really got tired of that. That and the toxicity just, I don't have to be in there. You know, I don't have to be part of the Bigfoot community. I don't have to be on YouTube. You know, I can work privately.
The thing about it is, like, man, what's the point? Like, let's just get along, tell stories, tell our experiences, whatever, you know, like, I've been skeptical the vast majority of my life. It's not until, you know, Jackie has kind of gotten, you know, into this that I've, you know, it's like, I can't deny what all of these people's stories, I don't know what they're seeing. I don't know what they've, you know, I do believe some of them sound pretty outlandish, and I think maybe there is some people that are maybe just looking for attention or something, but you're definitely not. The vast majority of these stories, I think, are legitimate stories. People had some kind of experience. What it is, I don't know, you know, but yeah, it's you know, like I said, I've been skeptical, you know, the vast majority of my life about, you know, about the existence of Bigfoot, you know, for all the normal reasons why you would be skeptical of it, you know, and probably feel the same way about it as everybody that up until the point they had an experience, and, you know, all of a sudden it's like, oh, hey, you know, like, evidence. Why don't we have one in the Smithsonian? Why doesn't mainstream science, you know, admit that these things exist. You know, all of these good reasons.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, science is it's objective. There's no bias in it. That's the way I always attacked it. I'd have people tell me all kinds of stuff, and I don't belittle them. I don't judge them. You know, I put it in a file bin, and if I ever come across that, then I'll know where to put it at inside this equation that I'm working on this on and it hasn't been a question, do they exist, for me since 2011. Right, the question for me is how do they stay out away from us? How do they escape detection? How do they evade us? And what's it going to take to film them? You know, that's been my questions. That's what I've been working on for a long time. And I figured out how to film. I know how to do it. I don't have the equipment to do it, but I know how to do it. And the part of the equation is distance and timing. Okay, that's what it is. You know, people want to have a camera right here and go run in the woods and go, hey, look, there's one, and shine it on them. That's not going to happen. They control a quarter mile around you. Okay, they see you a lot sooner and they get out of the area. All you're going to see is tracks, like I've been doing, and hitting a brick wall of observation. Now, yeah. I hit a brick wall. I can't get them on film. I can show you all kinds of tracks, but tracks, you know, and tracks, if it makes tracks, it's real. You know, you know that from hunting. You know, if you come across tracks, something made it.
Yep.
So, but like I said, it kind of circles back to our own psychology of how come we can't at least float the idea as a theory.
Yeah.
I floated the idea as a theory and got a long ways with it just by observation, tracking in areas they're in. On night, at times they're active. I got a long ways with that. So I don't understand why science can't get with someone that knows and float the theory and at least be objective. You know, enough to really put some real science to it. You know, some real work into it.
Yeah.
I mean, I put 20,000 hours in the field in probably 16, 17 years. All right, learning what I learned. But
it's a lot of time.
I had to know, because I thought I was nuts the first time, and the second time I thought I'm gonna have to go see a psychiatrist over this. Something's wrong. You know, it took my little boy. My little boy called him in. I actually called her in. You know, I was so tired, I just didn't want to do anything. But my little boy called her in, and my girlfriend's seeing it too. So three of us were looking at this thing. I said, well, I'm not nuts, you know. I said, the good thing is I'm not nuts. The bad thing is I'm not nuts, you know.
Yeah, so, it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah. It's been a wild ride.
Yeah. Well, it's like when we went out into the refuge that night and we just tried a few of your tactics out there. That was weird. What did you think about that out there?
You know,
hey, Flyby Stu.
Hey.
It works better in the spring.
Well,
really?
It was an interesting night for sure. You know, we were doing those tree knocks, and it seemed like we were getting responses all around us. And now, granted, the temperature was dropping really fast. Joe and I went back out there the next day and said, okay, if there was something around us that we couldn't see at night, we're going to find tracks. In the daylight, there was some snow, you know, like, okay, we're going to figure out what was going on. And we couldn't find anything. There was nothing. There was no tracks. There was nothing. And, I mean, I have scoured those woods for tracks. I like to go out right after it snows, you know, days after it snows, I see where the moose are moving. I see where the critters are, the coyotes are over here, the foxes are over there, it's pretty easy to figure out what's going on in the woods. And, that was an interesting night, and it was weird, I mean, it seemed like we were getting knock responses back. And I'm hesitant to say that, that we were getting any kind of knock responses back, but we would bang on a tree and, sometimes within a few seconds, and it didn't sound far away. I mean, like 30, 40 yards away from us, and we sat there with the light off for quite a while. And, it was weird. I don't know. It was, I don't know how to explain it, but like I said, we went back out there the next day. My son and I, we said, you know what, if there was something out there, we're going to find its tracks. There will be evidence that there was a thing out there, or more than one thing, because the sounds were coming from all around us. So the conclusion we came to was that it had to have been, the temperature dropping. It was getting really cold. We had some big, wind storms not that long prior. Trees were under stress. But the way that we got responses when we would knock still is strange,
Yeah, there's always a certain amount of success and failure that will always leave you scratching your head.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you, a non-invasive experiment I like to do is I get these little Sony AM/FM radios. They're about 4 inches tall, takes 3 batteries. And I go out to an area and scrape the ground back and dig a hole in the middle of that area and put that radio down in the hole and cover it with some foliage and leave it on. And I'll leave it on 2 or 3 days and then go back into the area and check where I scraped the ground back to see what stepped in there. Because when I scrape the ground back, I'll soften the ground up. Anything steps in it, it's going to leave its track.
Mm-hmm.
And I might do that in 3, 4, 5 different areas. But it'll kind of help me key in on, if this hilltop didn't get anything and this hilltop didn't get anything, but one, a little further west did, then I know they're a little further that way, and it helps me kind of key in on about what direction I need to start looking, But the radio, okay, they need information as much as they do food or shelter or water or safety. They need information also. And if they find something strange in their area, like voices that they can't pick out, they can't pinpoint where these people are, and they're going to have to come in and investigate and understand what's going on and wrap their mind around it. And so from an informational side of things, they have to investigate, and they're going to come up, and I've had them step right into where the ground is softened up and leave tracks all over. I've had them pick the radio up.
Wow.
So that's one of my favorite experiments to do. But in springtime, I don't know what it is about springtime, but it's a lot easier to get knocks in my area. So I'll go in totally dark, scent killed, before it gets dark, maybe 30 minutes before dark, go in there, get in there and sit down, be quiet, let it get dark, good and dark. On a moonless night, I've never got anything on a bright night. I pick a night where the moon is coming up in the morning and going down in the evening, and in the night it's completely dark.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll sit there in the dark and I'll just use a single knock. I'll sit there and do that every 68 seconds for about, you might do it twice and get a response, or it might be 20 minutes. Because I learned I was failing, because I'd go in and I'd do 5, 10 knocks and leave and think, well, nothing's here. And that was a mistake. So I'd go in there and actually sit there and just do knock. And I've had them knock all the way up every 50 yards, all the way up close to me, and then circle me, trying to figure me out. But those are two things. Because once you identify them in an area, then You can actually take it further.
Like what?
Well, it's kind of like the experiment I told you to do with a spotting scope.
Right. So you think like a red light is probably better to have out there because the bright light, they're not.
The only time I turn a light on when I'm investigating is when I'm leaving. I'm done investigating and I need to get out of there. That's the only time I turn the light on. Everything else is starlight. Any light source, IR light or any light source, they will pick up on. Thermal, they don't seem to pick up on thermal. But if they're close enough to see you and they see something in your hand, they're going to keep their distance because they don't like anything in your hands, and I don't blame them.
So do you suppose earlier you were talking about the natives and all of the legends, and that they had wars with them, and that almost every tribe has some sort of passed down oral history and cave paintings and whatnot. Do you suppose when Europeans landed, obviously the diseases wiped out the vast majority of the Native Americans? Do you suppose that those same diseases would have potentially wiped out the majority of the big feet then?
In the theoretical, and what you just said is exactly something I was thinking about. Why is it I'm finding young ones? Everywhere I track, I find the little ones, the little tracks. There's always a mama and a little one everywhere I'm going. 9 different places I find a mama, and then, the 5-inch track, mama's putting down and picking back up. And 6-inch track, it's pretty much run around on its own by then. Why is their population just now starting to boom? And I thought about either they're intelligent enough to understand about competition and competition with populations, or something knocked their population down a long, long time ago, and they're still trying to recover. That's 2 theories I have on that.
Yeah, I mean, sense. it would be, to me, it would seem logical that, potentially those same diseases that wiped out the Native Americans could have quite easily wiped out the Sasquatch population. And like you said, maybe they are just on a very slow rebound, and and because of development, I mean, granted, we still have some pretty good green spaces, but development has, if they're so leery of us, which obviously they are, they're not going to want to cross roads. They're going to be very stuck in, in these undeveloped areas of our country,
Well, I also fielded a theory about frequency of unsolicited sightings, and I'm not going to use anybody else's. I'm going to only use my own. Okay, because it's rock steady for myself. I don't know what anybody else's takes on things, misidentifications or whatever. But looking back on this, I realized that I had one knocking at me when I was 12 years old across the swamp. Okay. Now, I had one experience in 30 years. And then I had 2 experiences in years. Okay, if you plot that on a line as a frequency, okay, it's 1 in 30 years and then 2 in 6 years. That directly correlates to their population explosion, and also tracking and finding the little tracks everywhere I go backs that up. that at least that frequency theory up.
That's interesting. Yeah. Well, it seems like there definitely is it dips and comes and goes, because it seems like back in the 70s they were the talk of the town, and then it kind of went away, and then it seems like they come back and forth.
That would be an interesting study. Would be to study the frequency of sightings,
Yes.
globally, or at least in North America. Study the frequency of sightings and see if it correlates to anything. See if we can and I think there is some researchers that seem to be somewhat tracking, at least maybe not correlating frequency, but logging people's experiences, or sightings or whatever.
Well, there's also a very interesting correlation. I had a guy try to use the Bigfoot map, the sightings, to disprove Bigfoot. And he says, I can't remember his argument really, but every sighting was in remote wilderness areas with food sources and water. Okay, you didn't see any sightings out in a extreme arid place on the map. Like New Mexico up north, there would be sightings in the mountains. Everywhere there was mountains and extreme wilderness, sightings correlated to those areas. This guy was talking about, I can't remember his argument, but I turned it around on him and told him, what else this animal needs, this being needs, is deep wilderness, food, shelter, water, exactly where the sightings are.
Yeah.
So, this person actually ignored the correlation between sightings and where they were, and was trying to propose a completely lopsided argument. But he's a geologist, so what do you expect? I like the guy. We're friends.
I wish that, it seems so weird that Patterson Gimlin is the best out in the open, long strides, like you get this full body, for any amount of time. And it's just so weird that in 50 years we haven't gotten anything else like it.
Well,
those guys are on horses too, which, going up a creek bottom or something on horses, like you're not sneaking up on a Bigfoot with horses unless this thing's deaf and can't smell anymore,
Well, again, from premise survival aspect of things, I've done weeks on horseback, and when you're out in those areas, you lay on your horse blankets, and when your horse is sweating, and you throw a horse blanket down and put your blanket on top of it, and you lay down, the horse sweat permeates through your clothes and covers you. And you're so exhausted, you just don't care. You go to sleep, and then you roll over, and then you're literally, after a couple, you don't smell human after the first 7 days. Okay, you don't smell human. The horse doesn't even really differentiate between you and it anymore, because you smell so much like him.
Right.
And so these guys were on horseback for weeks, and was riding by and caught one next to a raging creek that is covering the horse's footsteps up, and they smell like horses, and horses, used to run wild around through there. So I doubt a four-legged horse animal would startle one, but I bet seeing men on it would.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But I watched the way Patty walked, and Patty walked exactly the same way as I've seen them walk. Okay, She doesn't stress her hip. Their hips don't work ours. They stay pretty much, within a degree or two during stride. And it's almost like, well, the one I saw running was almost like its foot was coming out, grabbing the ground and pulling it to him. It's not like he was actually he didn't have a huge kickoff on his back leg. I mean, but it was fast and smooth. But I believe Patty's real. I believe someone told them that this one was in the area, and they went in there on horseback, and it took them a couple of weeks, but they finally got up on it. And with tracking these things and knowing how they create a buffer between you and them, and how good they're at it. Yeah, I don't know anybody. Well, it's kind of like I stepped out of primitive survival community into the Bigfoot community looking for an expert. I come up empty-handed. Okay, there was no one there that could say, yeah, I have these skill sets and I know these things for to be true, and you can get up on a Bigfoot doing this. Not in the entire community. Okay? But, then I get attacked, belittled, and I just walk away. It's not worth my time. But yeah, I mean, I think if you leave it to the bickering and toxicity, and that's not a dig at anybody, it's just out of this natural human condition, it seems. They're going to be doing this for another 100 years and still not getting anywhere. So.
Well, your methods, like I said, we used it a few times out there and had some responses.
Springtime gets better.
Yeah, well, we'll be back there
Springtime gets
a few weeks.
Yeah, springtime gets better, and do that radio thing. Scrape the ground back, and drop a small radio in a hole, and do that 4 or 5 places, a couple miles apart, and see what leave them out there 3 days and then go. And when you walk up on it, don't just step in. Really look with your eyes and track your way into it, and see what comes in, and you may be surprised.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some spots here that we talked about getting to, and we just never made it at all. And now we got to get ready to head back to Alaska.
Yeah, I was hoping to do some deep woods camping. Joe and I, my son, were talking about hiking into some really remote spots. But the reality is that the weather has been awful, and it just doesn't appeal to me all that much.
Yeah.
No, wait for pouring rain and freezing or snowing on me. It just, I like being out in nature, but I could,
Yeah, we had a new guy want to join up with my group, and our camp was like the end of February. And it's pretty cold, and I told him, I said, wait till spring or summer camp to go, because you don't have any gear. He doesn't have any cold weather gear.
Oh,
I got one blanket.
Oh.
He says, I got one blanket. And he went for 3 days. He come back and said, yeah, I should have waited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
hey, I tell you, I warned you one time, and if you don't listen, misery will teach you. So.
Yep, spent many, many, many miserable camping trips. Just miserable, just horrible weather that doesn't let up.
Yeah. Well, you've gotten pretty good at those. I use a 10x10 diamond fly by Panther Primitive, and I used their oilcloth material and made a bedroll, which is waterproof, airtight, and I put 2 wool blankets in there and a wool blanket on top. and it can be 20 degrees, and before I put the other blanket on, it's that warm. But of course, I always, with a diamond fly, it's marine shrunk, waterproof, fire retardant, and I can have a fire under there with me. And when I build my fire pit, I'll build it flat, and then I grade it back 10 degrees to inside my shelter, because it's not the fire that heats you, it's the coals. And the coals, you get a good bed of coals, it reflect, and it'll turn into a convection system in there. You can keep it 70 degrees under that tarp.
Yeah.
Using flint and steel.
The fun way.
The fun way.
I can do it in 10 seconds. It's really just practice.
Yeah, it's something you need to keep up on, practice and stuff. If that stuff, there's a lot of people that glamorize or fantasize about survival and have no idea just how brutal it is.
Yeah, we went out last winter in Alaska a few times, and I think we even did it on a live stream one night.
Yeah.
It was probably 10 below, and we went out and took our little flint and got up underneath some pine trees and broke up some little branches and scraped some dry wood and it's totally doable. But yeah, if you don't know what you're doing, you're just going to be making sparks, and if you're lucky, you're going to be making sparks.
Well, the trick is to put your char cloth under your thumb and against your flint. And so you're holding your flint between your thumb and your forefinger like this, pinching it, and your char cloth's on top of your flint with the sharp edge facing out. And then you strike your steel against it. And what it does, it rakes, the flint is sharp enough to cut the hardened steel, and the spark that is the hardened steel that's coming off it. What it does, instead of falling below, it'll roll off onto your flint and into your char cloth. And so 2 whacks, you got a spark.
Oh, there you go.
I can't get this right to wave. I'm always like out of screen or something. I can't wave. It's backwards.
Hi, Michael. Michael Haywood said hi.
Hello. But
yeah, your mom was telling a story about creating basically some char cloth in the dryer on accident.
Oh yeah, she did. She overcooked something in her dryer, which I can't even believe is possible. She opened it up. She said it was full of smoke, and her clothes were like black with little. It was still smoldering around the edges and stuff.
Yeah, dryers will do that.
Yeah.
But,
I had an interesting experience a couple of months ago, to go back to talking about Bigfoot. It wasn't my personal experience, but I was out in Bristol Bay visiting with a friend of mine. I went up there to look at a boat, and I stayed for a few days with a friend of mine out there. He's an Alaska native, and his parents, who lived for their entire life up in the couple of different villages around the Lake Iliamna. I asked them one night about the Lake Iliamna monster. I don't remember if there's a name for that thing or not, but anyways, it's like the sea of Lake Iliamna. Yeah, interesting stories there. They had a lot of, sightings that, of friends and family and neighbors. And then she started talking about Hairy Man. I didn't even bring it up. And, that's, their Sasquatch is Hairy Man to them. And she had a lot of stories of, family and friends out berry picking and hunting, and and he had one experience that he said he was in some really tall grass. It was, like neck high out in the tundra in a kind of swampy area. And he was hunting moose, and he had been bent down working on his gear or something. And he stood up and he said he didn't say what it was. I mean, he just said, I don't know what it was. The only thing I can figure is it was hairy man. And he said it stood up about 15 feet away from him and looked him right in the eyes and then dropped back down into the grass and disappeared. And I mean, this is a guy who grew up in, the remotest part of Alaska. I mean, it is truly wild. When you're out there, you literally feel like you're on the edge of the world. And, for someone like that to sit there and tell you a story like that, and he's seen every kind of game imaginable out there. He's not going to mistake a bear for a Bigfoot, and to hear a story like that from this guy was pretty eye-opening, and just lots of stories of, family and friends. And one of the interesting stories was a mother and a daughter that were out berry picking, and the daughter saw it first, and she said, Mom, the trees are coming towards us. And the mom looked up and she said it looked like the trees were literally coming towards them. Like these things were like camouflaged, or, like the way she described it was something like that old Arnold Schwarzenegger movie where he was in the jungle, the first Predator. That's what it was. It was the first Predator, and how it camouflaged through I don't know what the right word is for it really, but anyways, yeah, just really, really interesting stories. And another one that was really interesting was her uncle was out getting firewood, had his three-wheeler, had rode up into this little area where he got firewood, and he was filling up his little trailer with firewood, and he had a really strange experience where he got disoriented. Totally turned around, lost, said he couldn't hear a thing, and could smell it, and then had the experience where he saw this thing. But the fact that he completely, he wasn't terribly far from the lake. He could hear the waves lapping on the shore, and then that just went silent. He said, and he got completely disoriented, couldn't figure out where he was basically lost for this little period of a couple of minutes, and then saw a Bigfoot, or a hairy man, as she would call it, and then it passed through, left, went on its way, and then he said basically he kind of, all of his senses came back, his disorientation went away, he, knew where he was, he could hear the lake again, knew which way north was. Yeah, really interesting, but she had a lot of stories. I would have loved to have recorded some of their stories that they had.
Well, it's really weird you said that, because I've only talked about this to one person in private, but I was out tracking in the area I know, and I had the same thing happen to me. And I wound up on my hands and knees crawling through brush uphill, because I just knew uphill was the direction I needed to go. And the closer I got to my truck, the better I felt. But I crawled on hands and knees probably half a mile, through brush uphill, until I finally got to where I could get back on my feet, dizzy, and make it to my truck. I didn't see anything. I didn't see anything at the time, but I was on their corridor, and I was headed to a place where there was a mud pie and a handprint that I had found. You know, there's a mud pie and a handprint I'd found. I was trying to get back in there. Oh, and this is the twist to it. My tracking partner, I had been in there a couple of months before, and a tornado come through there and knocked a whole bunch of saplings and limbs out of trees. I mean, the place was tore up, right? And we couldn't get back in there, so we went the other way, went tracking and come back. That's why I went back in there by myself, because I never made it to that mud pie where I found a hand stamp at. I wanted to go in there, so I go in there, and it's cleared. You know, there's no deadfall, there's no debris. There's no one went in there and did that. Okay, no one walked in there to clear that area out. You know, the state doesn't do that. It was just all the deadfall, everything that blocked everything was all gone. It was nice and pristine forest again, with what timber was still standing. Okay, that was weird. But that day I got down on the trail and started walking, and then I got hit. I wound up so dizzy I couldn't stand up. That's why I was on my hands and knees crawling uphill, because I knew uphill's the direction.
Huh.
Holy moly. It makes you wonder about David Paulides' missing 411 stories, you know?
That is, the possibility of those being true is why I broke my silence after 16 years of studying these things. Okay, I didn't have to, you know, I wasn't of Bigfoot community. I'm primitive survival. I'm studying them myself. And then this guy, I watched this interview. This guy comes out talking about, you know, people perhaps going missing under strange circumstances and could possibly be linked to Bigfoot. And now I got chased for a mile. I can't tell you the exact motive of that, but I felt like I was running for my life that day. And reflecting back on that fear and that experience for myself, and hearing this guy saying this is a possibility that these things could be making people disappear. And I watched a video of this girl talking about her sister, and she lives in Alaska. And this girl, you know, they were together, and the girl just disappeared, thin air, missing, never found. You know, like 7, 8 years later, they're doing an interview with this girl, and she's talking. She says, "I think I know what happened, but the police won't believe." And she has these big tears. She has these big tears coming down her face, and the wind is blowing across the tundra, and her hair is getting in her tears, and she's sobbing in pain. And I'm like, you know, I'm not going to keep my mouth shut anymore. You know, I know these things are real. I know they're out there. I got chased for a mile. That's why I stepped into the Bigfoot community, to put awareness out there. And in every video I'm in, I say I am here for the awareness of these things that are out there, really out there, whether you believe them or not. That's in every video I've ever been in. So, yeah, that's why I stepped into there. And I've had people contact me, you know, "Hey man, I hunt in Tennessee. Should I be worried?" I'm like, well, and you know, and they tell me what they've been doing all these years. And I'm like, well, if you're still doing that and you're not bothering you, then keep doing it. You know, they like your habit. Okay, so long as you go in and you're predictable, they get to still come in and do what they need to do, because they can predict your habit. And that is a great setup for them, because they're out of sight, out of mind. You don't know. You have no idea, and they don't want you to know. Okay, that is the reality of the shared area that is the national forests and the WMAs that are in the lower 48. And so if you're not seeing them, if you're not being bothered by them, then you're cool. You know?
Huh. Yeah, because there's a lot of people that spend a lot of time in the woods and never ever see them, ever, you know, and they swear, "Oh, I'm Ray." They don't exist, because, you know, if they did, I've seen one by now.
I spent more time in the woods than I did anywhere else growing up for 30 years before I actually saw one. But looking back at 12 years old, understanding their communications now, at 12 years old, I was on the backside of a lake in a swamp, probably 8 miles back there, you know, one way down one road, the only road in, sandy road. 8 miles back there, I got dropped off and I'm hunting. And I get knocked out. It's 100 yards across that swamp, and I hear knock, knock, knock. And then about 3 or 4 minutes later, knock, knock, knock. And I'm sitting. There's a big pine tree bigger than me, and it has a kind of a knoll, and it shoots off down to the water. And I'm sitting there on the next to that pine tree on the knoll with a single shot 12 gauge, 12 years old, no one around. Knock, knock, knock. I had no idea what it was. Now I know what it was. But yeah.
Yeah. The amount of times I've spent out alone, like up in Talkeetna, just remote, crazy areas in Alaska, and had no idea.
Well, it makes you wonder how many people had experiences and didn't know what it was, because it didn't come charging out the bush at them.
Right.
They heard knocks or had something thrown at them or got screamed at. They just
well, like I've said, many nights I've heard knocking, and I just figured either it was someone just getting some kindling for their fire or something. I've never assumed when I'm in an area that I'm the only one there, because if I got there, the chances someone else is there, I just never, even though I don't see anybody, for days and being out there camping for, a week or so, and you don't come across anybody,
that's how I grew up. We hunted and fished by the moon and by the seasons, and we didn't go where everybody else went. We made sure we got away from everybody else.
Yeah.
I don't care if we're hunting. If we go up a river an extra 30 miles to get away from everybody, places that people are too spooky to go to, because there are places that very few people will go to, and those are the places we'd go. I still used to do that. I don't quite do that as often anymore, but because I realize that's where they are.
Huh.
But I try to respect them.
Well, there's like the name with like Devil's Canyon or like things like that usually refer to areas that they are known to be in as well.
Yeah. I found them in a lot of places that people have no idea they're there. Inside city limits. Right across the river. They're actually crossing the river, coming into a farmer's field, killing pigs. Okay, I tracked them doing that. If people knew, and that's why I don't, put an X on the map. Hey, right here, because there's people that go kill them. And they're a primitive being trying to eke a living out on this rock like we are.
Mm-hmm.
I respect that.
So speaking of them eating, this is something that I've thought about a lot. It seems to me that they would probably be omnivores, but would have to have a very protein-rich diet just to support their size and lifestyle. It'd have to be very high calorie, high protein. That would seem logical to me anyways. What's your thoughts on their diet?
Well, look at the areas y'all live in and further north.
Deer and elk is what they would be, I would assume, would be on the menu around here.
Yeah. Well, 200 years ago, the expedition came through northern Canada, and they had meat to eat. But they just didn't eat meat. They ate the fat. They cut the stomach out, put all the kidneys and livers and everything in the stomach, fill it with water, and just hang it over fire and let it boil and eat that too. They ate the entire animal to get all the calories and carbohydrates out of that animal.
Yep.
So I would suspect they would use very much everything of an animal also.
Mm-hmm.
Now also I believe they're omnivores. I can't prove they're omnivores. I've tracked them killing animals, but I have not tracked them, up to a berry bush and was picking berries. I haven't done that. But there are berries in the area, and I would have no doubt that they'd make use of it.
Well, bears are, they eat roots, berries, all sorts of stuff, And
they brought a bear, a radio collar bear, trying to, introduce. We got them in the center of the state, but they don't really. They got one area they're in. They don't, really exist anywhere else in the state.
Oh.
And so they'll radio collar them and relocate them to other WMAs. So this game warden brought one in and dropped it right in the middle of my group's area. He never found that bear. I don't know what happened to that bear. I don't know if he just ran off or what.
Huh.
That bear disappeared.
Interesting.
And so I kind of have the opinion where bear is. They could be close, but they're not going to be in there with a bear. If I'm finding bear tracks, I'm not particularly worried about finding a Bigfoot track.
We were out by McHugh Creek area. What was that falls that I love to go by?
Yeah, just past McHugh Creek down there where we were hiking that one time and ran into those bears.
It was down in Turnagain Arm, and I was down by the creek, and Joe and Jake were up messing around.
We had hiked on up the trail. We had the 2 Jack Russells, and we had 2 young black bears coming down this trail towards us that were scared for their life. Could have been a brown bear. Of course, it made us think about our life.
Yeah.
So it was back down the trail we went in a hurry. But they were looking over their shoulder, and I didn't want to see what was coming around the corner behind them. We just turned tail and got.
Themselves?
If you see me running, try to keep up, right?
Yeah. I was not armed for bear at the moment. I was armed for bipedals, and it was not enough.
Yeah. Oh,
it was close to enough.
Yeah. Every time I've had a sighting with just a sidearm, I always felt naked.
Yeah.
But the coyotes around here, I can do a Bigfoot yell. They'll yip and you hear all of them light up and go the other way out of hearing. They will take off. And
they may know full well that they're potentially on the menu then.
Yeah, at the very least, or quite possibly a competitor that should be taken out.
Yeah.
And
Eric from Media Palace has that video or that photograph of a coyote like inside out, like pulled through its mouth, like something reached in, pulled its innards, its ass through its mouth, basically.
Well, a buddy of mine, he's a former special forces. He's a trapper, and he just told me last year, and he traps around, Darbone and way back in the sticks and the creeks. And he said for about almost 8 months, everything he trapped that was canine, when he picked it up, it's like it was just a bag of mush inside the skin. It would have been clobbered and beaten to where there wasn't a bone bigger than a quarter. The ribs were broken, the shoulders were broken, the skull was broken, the hips were broken, the legs broken. I mean, it's like someone sat there with a hammer and beat this thing. And he said, it was in a trap. It wasn't going nowhere. But something would sit there and beat his coyotes he's trapped to death. And he said it didn't really leave any marks on the skin. It's not like it was an implement of anything or a baseball bat or something. He says I went a long time not figuring that out until he got screamed at. He got screamed at. He said, I couldn't tell you what it was, but I can tell you what it wasn't. It wasn't anything in there I've ever met. But yeah, he said it didn't bother him too bad because he was after the pelts. You know, he could skin it out and the pelt was still fine. But
weird.
He said all the insides, it's like he didn't know if he was beating it against a tree or beating it with a fist.
Wow.
Wow.
There was one night out at the cabin, I could hear the coyotes, and they were across the lake, and they were making all sorts of noise. And this was when it was just Joe and I, and he was really little, you know, before all my back and stuff went out. It was early summertime or something. I don't know where you would have been, but anyhow, we were out there, and this ruckus, like just blood curdling, not the same scream I heard out on the Deshka, but a different scream and howl that it didn't sound like a wolf, it didn't sound like a coyote, but man, those coyotes just went silent, like just silent like that.
Yeah. My tracking partner, I had a slow night one night, and we wound up down on this bayou, and the frogs are going nuts. Just, you know, they're so loud it's deafening down in this area. And so I roll my window down, and just out of curiosity, and I do a big, long. I do a pretty good Bigfoot howl. I do about a 14-second long howl, and I stop, and everything, you could hear a pin drop. It was 45 minutes later before the first frog said ribbit.
Wow.
Let's hear it. Bring it on. Come on.
Well, what that told me was all the other beings in that area know what that is.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I drove up there with my truck and they didn't flinch. Well, I was talking to my tracking partner, they didn't flinch. I mean, I even said, man, it's loud. You couldn't even hear yourself think it's so loud, all these frogs. They never flinched. I did that one Bigfoot howl.
Oh, Mr. Lee wants to hear it too.
It's on video. It's on video. It's extremely loud and ear-shattering and kind of annoying to do in a setting like this, but it is on video on Bigfoot Explorer.
All right.
Oh, that's right. You've got like a whole journey on there that you did.
Yeah, I tracked for them for about 11 months. And there was creative differences, and
It
kind
happened.
of like, no hard feelings.
Yeah.
Good luck. And I guess I'm so used to being independent, working independently. I work with a team well, but I don't have to. And so it really comes down to, if you're stressing me out enough, if you're more stressful than you are useful, or if and I'm not blaming a person, I'm saying this is on me.
Right.
If I'm stressing more than this is useful to me, there's no sense in life's too short.
Yep. Bingo.
So
I concur.
Because I'm not about the drama, I'm about the research. I'm about objective research and information. I don't care about drama. I don't care about name calling, pointing fingers, belittling anybody, calling someone names. I'm not into any of that.
I like to do it sometimes.
I don't even yell. I'm the type of person I don't even yell. You know, the 13 years I was married, I yelled at my wife one time. You know,
Hey,
because
yeah.
I don't think I should have to yell. I should be
No.
able to talk to you as a human being, and you can agree or disagree, and we can talk it out as human beings. I'm not, you know, if I ever, and I told my manager that if I ever start yelling, you better have someone there to help you. You know, I'm gonna reach and grab my whole thing. But yeah,
Well,
I mean, and it wasn't his fault. Go ahead.
the the best advice, marriage advice that I had ever heard was this adopted couple that I lived with. I call them my adopted parents. Um, but they always had a rule that they would state their opinion or whatever, and that was it. They wouldn't repeat themselves, and they certainly wouldn't raise their voice or anything like that, but that was it. They'd say their piece of mind and let it be. And I always found that.
Yeah, you know, I did that, but there's people that will see you as weak. You know, people will perceive you as weak and will push you until it ends the relationship.
Yeah.
You know, when I walk away, I'm done. I've done everything I could do. You know.
Yep.
But
you usually give about 3 chances. After the third, it's at that point you know.
I gave hundreds of chances. I gave you know, after catching someone sleeping around on it, walking in on it, and then sitting down and discussing it, and
oh my God,
and we got kids, and this is not how we're supposed to be living, and I have my own set ways, you know, I have my own. Excuse me.
You should have done the Bigfoot howl. He'd have never come back.
Do what?
You should have done the Bigfoot scream. He would have never come back.
Yeah.
You got to stake your territory, man.
Yeah.
People would be like, oh, man, I am not going back to that house. That guy is crazy.
The person knew me.
You put it on me. The howl like that.
I grew up with extreme violence. I grew up in an atmosphere of extreme violence, and I can be extremely violent, and I have a hell of a temper, and I learned to get a hold of that. That's why I don't yell. You know, I reserve any wrath of mine for someone that is attacking me physically. You know.
Makes sense.
This person knew me. And you know, this person knew me. Yeah, but I believe holding yourself to a standard higher than your own. You know,
yeah.
if I just hold myself to my own standard, it could fail. I can justify shifting my own standard from one position to another to fit what I want to do. So I hold myself to a higher standard than my own. And I don't get to do, yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I tried to explain that to a friend, you know, that, you know, it's easy to justify your position, you know, when you're in it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, man's standards can fail. You know, there are higher standards to hold yourself to. That makes you vulnerable. It may, but it doesn't make you weaker. I think it makes you stronger and better.
Yeah.
You know, and if a person doesn't respect that, then they can go the way of the dodo.
So Mr. Lee wants to know where that video of your whoop is.
That would be Bigfoot Explorer with an X, Central Louisiana Mission. Central Louisiana Mission. And
yeah, everybody wants to hear it now.
well, that long drawn out yell, it's safe to use. It's okay to use it. If you put language behind it, there's a certain sentence of language, you know, that type language that you hear. If you do that yell and then that language, I screwed up one night and I used an exact recreation of what one did to me. That's the yell that I use. Because I had one use a yell and then it had language behind it.
Oh.
And I went to Arkansas because my tracker partner, I've been into this, but he's getting into this, and he's seen one, but he can't, and he's tracked one, but he can't believe it. So he wants to go to Arkansas and do this yell, because I'd never used the yell. I heard it, I remember it well. So I did the yell and the language behind it, and we almost got our asses handed to us.
Oh.
Okay, that dude came up within 30 yards of the truck, grabbed a hold of a cypress sapling, and leaned in, looked just like this, and just low gurgle growl. Okay, he was serious.
Oh.
You know, and yeah, that was a wild night. That's also in Patrick Vaughn Chronicles. But
That'd be terrifying.
yeah, so I quit using the language behind the yell. I just used the long droning yell, no language behind it.
Okay.
You know,
Good to know.
interesting thing on that that garbled language sounding thing there is that certainly unrelated, but somewhat related because it sounds the same. When we've been working on the boat, fishing, commercial fishing, for days on end, and you finally shut the boat off, you set the anchor and you shut the boat down, and everybody gets to lay down and go to sleep. It's really hard to go to sleep because you're just on this weird buzz. But as you're going to sleep, everyone hears that. These weird voices in your head. It's so bizarre. And it's this garbled, you can't really make them out. And it's like you've been hearing the sound of the diesel engines for days on end. And, you know, you're kind of in this weird stupor, but it sounds almost identical to what that garbled voices sound that you were making. And yeah, I've had guys ask me about that before on the boat. Like my nephew's like, do you hear voices like when you lay down, like that you can't understand? They sound kind of garbled. Yep. It's normal. I don't know what it is, but it sounds just like that.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Garbled voices sound.
Take a recorder out there with you and record them.
It's in your head. I'm pretty sure, unless it's mermaids.
Maybe. Well, it depends on the air temperature and how slick the water is. It could be an echo.
But they're way out there in Bristol Bay on the water.
I don't know them. Because I've heard it 5 times. I've heard their language 5 times.
Huh.
Wow.
And the first time I didn't even know what it was, but then I had the little juvenile come in and watch me fish. Me and another girl. The girl freaked the hell out. But you know, I didn't actually assign that noise I heard to his species until a friend of mine, Christy, sent me Lon Moorhead's a video he did, and he's on stage and he says this freaked me out. He said the exact same sentence I heard. Same everything. He's talking on stage and he says, okay, he replayed the recording, which is kind of muffled. It's hard to hear. He says, this is what they said. He says, that's exactly what I heard. But what it was two voices. It was two voices, and it's not like they talk. You talk and then I talk. If I stop talking a little bit, you'll start talking. They're literally stepping on each other's dialogue. It's so if you're listening to that one long, well, it's not very long, maybe 3 to 5 seconds that you're hearing this, you can pick out two distinct voices. It's
Yep. That Ron Moorhead is one of the things that just I dropped my phone when I heard it, because it was the first time I ever heard anything that was anything remotely like what I heard out there on the Deshka that night.
Is that the guy that did the Sierra sound?
Yeah, but like Mr. Lee is saying that they're saying that that's Ron Moorhead.
Okay, that's what I was asking. Yeah, it's the same. Okay.
Well,
but, yeah, I think they're real. I don't know, why people say that Ron Moorhead's stuff is fake.
Well,
but what I heard out there on that, and that's remote Alaska, that's far away from the Sierra Nevada scene, and it was identical. Identical. I mean, I was shocked. It shook me to my core. It's still just kind of, it's hard to listen to that thing because it just,
Me too. And I listened to Ron Moorhead talk, and I'm going to tell you, without being derogatory, that's a strange duck there. But that's just him, and I don't insult him. He's just way far on a different spectrum and wavelength than I'm on. But that does not mean what he has in that information is incorrect.
Yeah.
Okay. You could take someone that's completely off the scale of what you are and what your belief system is, and they can have great information and insight on something, and you can see that and see the value in it, but still there's something about their insight, or there's something about them that you don't quite agree with. That's where it gets down to, I don't judge people and I don't call people names. There's certain things I'm extremely skeptical of in some of his viewpoints, or I am. I could be wrong. I don't think I am. But what he said and what he was playing on that stage matched the same sentence that I heard. And the conversation was between the mother and the juvenile that I'd been tracking for all those years up there.
Huh. Yeah, like I said, that night out on the Deshka, I thought it was a group of drunk, people that were going to need rescuing, because there was a conversation taking place. I could not make out what was being said, but there was a conversation that was taking place.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Question for you.
Yes.
Did you, how, the mother and the juvenile, were you able to track them year after year, or was it like seeing the same, being able to recognize the same mother's footprints and the juvenile's footprints, like for multiple years in a row, or?
There was only 3 of them in that area. The first, there's one, which was the female. That's the first one I encountered, and also the third one I encountered. Or in the third encounter, same individual, female, and I started tracking her and found out she had a little boy. Okay, and I tracked them for probably 4 days a month, maybe 5 days a month of the month. I was there tracking them from one area to another, finding their tracks consistently. Within an 18 square mile area, because there's water sources and food sources. There's a pond in the springtime, and the shallow back half acre of it's full of crawfish, and I could go back there and track them catching crawfish.
So
there's a. Go ahead.
Oh, so where I was going with this question is, if you were able to track them over a course of multiple years in the same area, were you able to get any sort of estimate on how fast the juvenile was growing?
Yeah, it's three squatch years per one human year. At 6 years old, he's equivalent to an 18-year-old.
Okay, so they would mature at approximately 3 times the speed of a human child.
Grow, yes. I'm not sure about mature.
Okay, yeah, grow, sure, yeah, yeah. And that would make sense, living in the wild like that they would need to grow faster.
Yeah, he was covering. I think I did the math. His foot was growing between 0.8 and 1.2 inches per year.
Wow.
That's pretty good growth rate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
We need to start milking these things and selling Bigfoot milk to bodybuilders.
Make sure it's the female.
I don't know. Bodybuilders might not be picky as long as it works.
Well, there is a general consensus that I missed out on an opportunity of a lifetime in my first encounter. I should have just stopped running and took it like a man. You know, she was a beautiful Sasquatch, but she'd make an ugly human.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well,
rebel spirit.
Well, the good thing about that would have been that nobody would have gotten any video footage of it, so nobody had any evidence.
Yeah, I'd have come back with some Sasquatch VD or something. Anyways.
Well, I need to go eat some food, you guys.
Yes, getting bedtime woos. Woos are in.
It's
Throwing
2:22. It's 2:22 here.
Holy moly.
Yeah, I'm just go to bed. It was nice chatting with y'all. Thanks.
Yeah, you too, Patrick. You too.
Yeah, for sure.
It's always good to chat with you. Yeah, we'll have to do this again sometime.
Okay.
Definitely.
Nice seeing you face to face, Captain.
Same to you.
All right, y'all take care.
Don't let her catch up with you in the dark.
I don't know. I've been single a while now, so.
Well, put it in the Chronicles. The final chapter. The last time I went into the woods alone.
Oh, Lord. Well, good night, y'all.
Take care.
Right, good night.
All
right. Well, that was fun.
All right.
Plan on being on for that long, but it's always good to talk to Patrick. Hear good stories and awesome adventures. But yeah, I'm good about pass out. I don't even know if I can hit the tub tonight, which deeply saddens my soul. My gills need exercise.
Well, it was awesome hanging out with everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks for showing up.
Yeah. And we'll definitely do this again, and got the tubers and chiefers going, so I'll start adding more content to that too as we go along. So that'll be fun. Awesome. Well, thank you guys. You have an awesome night or morning, whatever time it is, wherever you're at. And never give up. Key. Never ever give up. Gonna have an awesome, awesome night, and we'll see you soon.
Work hard, play hard, be awesome.
That's key. All right. Take care, everyone. Ciao.